Story 1. I didn't see anyone mention this one yet. Brooms, where the stick screws into the brush part. The way I naturally grip a broom and sweep causes it to gradually unscrew itself until the brush part falls off. So, I have to swap which hand is on top and change my entire stance so my sweeping motion will constantly screw the stick and brush tighter together instead. It's easily manageable, but sometimes at the end of a long day of work when you're tired, sweeping up and not thinking about having to do it the opposite way, the broom detaches. Story 2. Ballpoint pens. They are designed for the ball to be pulled across the paper. When you're a lefty, you push it across the paper and a lot of them do not write correctly because of it. Story 3. Every lawnmower I've used has the pull cord on the right side. This means I either have to use my weaker hand to start it or stand in an awkward position to pull with my left. Story 4. Spiral-bound notebooks. Can openers, lead pencils, and certain gel pens smudge as you write? Certain computer mice, if you're like me and only want to use one left-handed. Thank God for left-handed gaming mice. Story 5. Fountain pens. Any kind of wet ink, especially on shiny paper. Greeting cards end up looking like someone smeared multiple spiders inside. Those chairs you get with a mini desk on one side made university lectures a real pain. Story 6. The alphabet. Not writing itself, I just angle the paper so as not to smudge, but the letters themselves. The shape of them flows nicely when pulled smoothly across the page with a pen, but we lefties have to push the nib across the page. Try drawing a line, pulling a pen, and then pushing it to feel the difference in smoothness. Also, mugs with logos on one side that are not visible when used in the left hand. Or sight sign-in books in narrow spaces in doorways with a pen on the wrong side, oddly common. Rulers with the numbers on the wrong side. Story 7. Pens. They are made to be dragged along paper, not pushed, so a lot of pens just write poorly for us. That said, the day I learned intubation and found out that a laryngoscope blade is meant to be held in the left hand, I rejoiced. Suck it, right-handed people. I win this one. Story 8. At work, I have to swipe in with a badge. I have the badge on the left side of my pants because that's where my left hand can grab it. I have to reach across and occasionally reposition myself because all the readers are on the right side of the users. Fingerprint sensors on the laptop, right-hand side, as is the number block. Ignition in the car. Story 9. I'll skip the ones I have already seen posted. The volume button position on most phones. Bread knives, pruning shears, chainsaws, fanny packs, also known as bum bags, have the zipper in the wrong direction. 99% of items labeled ergonomic are only ergonomic if you're right-handed. Those chairs with the flip-up desk part attached to them, and so much more. We're one of the very few minority groups that society doesn't think needs accommodating. Story 10. Most multi-tools, like those with easy one-handed knife opening, are designed for right-handed users. Many everyday carry knives don't allow switching the pocket clips, and the same goes for knife sheaths. I have 5 pairs of left-handed scissors for a reason. When I used a left-handed can opener, it made me cry. I had no idea how easy it was. I'm sure there are many other examples, but I can't think of them, or I don't even realize I'm struggling. There's a reason left-handed people don't live as long. We aren't meant for this world. Story 11. I assume, like myself, that most left-handed people just adapt to things by being semi-ambidextrous. Scissors, can openers, personal computer mice that are on the right-hand side and which I have never bothered to switch. You can just train yourself to use a non-dominant hand until it becomes better at particular things. Story 12. I know nobody uses them anymore, but I used to dream about owning a camera that let me click the shutter with my left hand, so I could hold this really expensive object steady with my dominant hand. Story 13. For all the firearm enthusiasts out there, finding a left-handed bolt-action rifle can be a challenge. Most often, I can only find the models I want set up for right hand, which makes pulling the bolt back very awkward. Story 14. Learning guitar. I play a right-handed guitar flipped the other way so the strings are backward, but to me, it's normal. Also, using 3-ring binders and writing anything is challenging because you immediately smudge it. It's extra fun when it needs to be nice, like on a greeting card. Cake knife and server things have the serrated edge on the opposite side. Story 15. I am not ambidextrous by any means, but for some reason, I am able to use a lot of right-handed things. It is great for computers as I can use a mouse right-handed and make notes with my left. The only things I have to do left-handed are writing or painting. Even doing it yourself, I cannot get the brush to sit right in my hand. Scissors, tin openers, and cutlery are all fine, but likely because my parents are right-handed and never set anything out differently. Story 16. Corkscrews, particularly the hairy armpit ones, mean you screw towards your body rather than away from it. Even screw-top bottles screw to the right. Story 17. Pens that are chained to the counter at post offices or some banks. Tables where you sit for dinner, always bumping elbows unless you can sit on the left corner. Using a pencil on paper. Story 18. Emergency stops on large industrial equipment. Most of these are placed so that if there is an accident and you are being pulled into a machine, the emergency stop is located wherever a right-handed person would instinctively reach as they were trying not to die. As a left-handed person, this means they are never located where I need them to be. This is a common enough issue that left-handed people are significantly more likely to die or suffer disabling injury in industrial accidents than right-handed people. Most safety features are just not designed for left-handed individuals. Most large power tools are not designed for left-handed individuals at all. Story 19. Niche 1 but petrol leaf blowers. The intake is on the right side of all of them, so if you hold it with your left, it sucks your pants in. It's the same with drills. To put them into reverse, most have a button you push from left to right, and to drill into things you push it right to left. So, if you're drilling into things and have to apply some force with your right hand, you push into that button. But if you do the same thing with your left hand, you have to hold the drill differently because you can easily put it into reverse unintentionally when trying to use force. Story 20. Surgical equipment, surgical scissors, laparoscopic tools. It is the scissor problem but 10 times. They lock and unlock with a thumb pulling motion for right-handed people but an awkward thumb pushing motion for left-handed people. The scissors need to be squeezed by a left-handed person to keep the blades together while cutting. And you operate on the opposite side as right-handed people, which confuses the second surgeon in the room. Story 21. My hair dryer. I thought for years it was a poor, though very expensive and powerful design. Then I used it right-handed one day and no more problems. Story 22. I struggle with directions. Meaning if my wife tells me to turn left or right, I have to think about it. I think this is because growing up and playing sports, I always automatically converted the verbal instructions in my head. For example, throwing a ball. Raise your left arm to point and then throw with your right arm would become raise my right arm and throw with the left. Story 23. All modern chainsaws are made for right-handed people. It was annoying at the start, but I learned pretty quickly. Martial arts drills can be frustrating when they are set up for two orthodox fighters. Either I match up with another left-handed person or have to change my stance. Arm wrestling is nearly always the right hand. The majority of firearms are made for right-handed people. Story 24. Most decks of regular playing cards have the number or letter in the upper corner that is hidden when I fold it out. So it is either seeing just a bunch of white cards or holding it in an awkward reversed fan style. Story 25. Most things I adapt to, but the biggest issue I have had as a lefty is firearms. My whole family is right-handed except me, and growing up, I adapted to using their firearms, but it still feels uncomfortable to have the recoil go across your face or when a hot shell comes flying at your face instead of over your shoulder. Story 26. I got used to being left-handed, switching to right for so long that most of the time I don't really find anything super inconvenient. Until I decided to buy myself fancy headphones for my 30th birthday Sony Extra Bass Model 4. It was the newest model back then, and for me it was expensive and fancy. And was super annoyed that the touch panel is on the right side, so it was difficult for me to change songs or adjust the volume, as I was always going in the opposite direction than intended. So yeah, headphones. Story 27. Scissors. I never learned to use left-handed ones because they simply weren't available at school or in the stores. You had to either go to a specialist store, which means expensive, or to Germany. Now I'm stuck with right-handed ones as left-handed ones annoy me. This also means I can't use seam magnets on my scissors because they're in the way while cutting. Story 28. I end up using both hands one way or the other. Like I can apply makeup on the right side of my face better with my right hand, which includes when I do face painting. Sometimes it annoys me when my right brow looks perfect and my left looks sloppy. Story 29. Scissors. Also having people comment how dangerously I'm holding a knife when cutting something, because they're so used to seeing it the other way. Watch out, I might slip and slit your throat, Mom. Story 30. Whiteboards have always been a pain. I am not going to learn to write backward, so I have to awkwardly hover my hand so it does not immediately get smudged away. Story 31. I'm not a lefty, but speaking from my husband's experience with automatic transmission cars, he said it was awkward trying to use his non-dominant foot to control the pedals. Story 32. Measuring from the top with a ruler. Hold the ruler in your right hand and the pencil with your left. The numbers start at the bottom. You can get left-handed rulers, though. Numbers start at the other end, of course, is the only difference. Story 33. Scissors, I gave up on them a long time ago and use a knife for everything. This Christmas I received a pair of left-handed scissors from my significant other. It's a game changer. Story 34. Spiral notebooks, binders, can openers. The list is endless. My least favorite was desks in high school and college only had right-handed extensions, so I'd have to reach over or keep the binder or notebook almost hanging in the air or on my knees to take notes. I also have to turn rulers upside down, which makes it harder to read the numbers when I am measuring. The repeated questioning of why I turned my notebooks backwards or upside down to keep the spirals out of the way. My son is left-handed, and sometimes I am so jealous. He has so many left-handed things, and I had to learn how to do a lot of stuff right-handed because I was the only one in my family and among my friends who was left-handed. Teaching him how to write was so easy. Story 35. Scissors. I'm more ambidextrous than anything, so sometimes I'll be holding something with my right hand and try to cut with my left, and it just folds whatever it is over instead of cutting it. Then I'll be like, stupid world, and switch over. Other than that, I get by. I can write with either hand, though my left looks better. Feels a little better to write right-handed. Everything else, though, I'm a natural lefty. Story 36. I was born in 1993 in country Australia. My mum searched high and low for left-handed scissors, but could never find them. Lo and behold, my mum found online shopping, and at the age of 16, I had my first pair of left-handed scissors. Story 37. When I was teaching, I used to erase what I had just written with my sleeve as I went along unless I did this strange dinosaur claw-type grip. Also, travel coffee mugs with handles always seem to orient in such a way that I have to hold them in my right hand to drink. Story 38. So many mugs that have a specific design. I got a really cute one that looked like my cat. Then I drink from it and get a cat ear up each nostril. Same with one of my water bottles. The straw is at the front when you hold it in your right hand, but at the back when you hold it left-handed. I always have to inspect my drinking vessels first and not get drawn in by cuteness. Story 39. This is a strange issue that I've never seen mentioned in these discussions before, but it was bothering me a few minutes ago. I often have to write things down on paper while sitting in a vehicle during the early morning hours. With no ambient light, I have to turn on the overhead light inside my truck, which is above the dashboard. When I turn to my right to use my left hand to write on my paper against the top of the center console, my arm casts a shadow on my paper, and I can hardly see what I'm writing. If I were using my right hand to write, my arm would be on the far side of the paper from the light, and I could actually see what I'm writing. Story 40. Education. Although I am in my 40s now, I was born left-handed and was taught how to write with my right hand. As a consequence, I have poor handwriting, which made me an ideal candidate for medicine. Story 41. Scissors, when they get even just a little blunt, I can't cut with them that way. Meanwhile, everyone else in my family can still cut with them fine. They will never understand the struggle, sadly. Story 42. Chainsaws. For the love of all things holy, do not try to use one left-handed. Even angle grinders are an extreme sport for us left-handed people, but chainsaws are a whole new level of no. Story 43. I don't know how it is for everybody, but two of my kids, my wife, and my niece and nephew are all left-handed but can do pretty much everything with their right hand as well. They just prefer their left. I see my son writing right-handed, and he says it's easier and neater with his left hand, but he doesn't like the smudges, so he just does it right-handed. If I write with my left hand, it looks like a baboon wrote it with a stick. My grandfather was also left-handed and wrote with his right hand and said he always hated it, but he used to get beaten at school if he wrote left-handed, so he just learned to do it right-handed. Story 44. Lefty here. I've learned to write with the book, paper, or notebook completely sideways to avoid the dreaded ink palm in school. So it's never been an issue for me. I don't even think twice about how it looks strange to non-left-handed people until people bring it up in public. But being left-handed and trying to eat at a table full of right-handed people means I constantly elbow the person next to me as we eat our meals. So that's super annoying.